60 Minutes reporter Leslie Stahl is getting blasted for her interview with Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene on Sunday evening, with the biggest criticism being her nearly speechless reaction to the representative's claim that President Joe Biden, along with fellow members of the Democratic Party, are pedophiles. Stahl was challenging MTG on her habit of calling Democrats the party of pedophiles and groomers in a Real America's Voice interview. MTG responded saying, "I would definitely say so. They support grooming children." The 60 Minutes interviewer objected, "They are not pedophiles. Why would you say that?" To which Greene said, "Democrats support, even Joe Biden, the president himself, support children being sexualized and having transgender surgeries. Sexualizing children is what pedophiles do to children." Stahl rolled her eyes and whispered, "Wow," and added, "Okay."
I mean, look, people don't understand what an interview is. They think the job of the interviewer is to fight with the subject if they don't like the subject. Like, they don't get that the point of an interview is to find out what people who are not them think, especially people who are important newsmakers, right? What she did here was she actually did push back. That's what I don't understand about these headlines. She pushed back twice. She first said to her, "You've called them pedophiles, you know, basically WTF." Greene responded, and then she said, "But they are not pedophiles. Why would you say that?" And then allowed Marjorie Taylor Greene to explain herself. By the way, she said something that a lot of people think, right? Not a lot of people in news media, not a lot of leftists on Twitter, but a lot of Americans think that that allowing children to transgender, to transition, that speaking to children about these issues at too early an age is a way of sexualizing the experience of being a child in a way that is problematic. Now, of course, I wouldn't call them pedophiles, okay? But she pushed back against her twice. Her job there was not to fight with Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was to give viewers a sense of what she thinks and to fact check her in real time, which she did.
Right. So I have a couple thoughts about this. First of all, so I think the people who are mad, the mainstream media folks, progressives who are mad at Leslie Stahl, it's because they wanted to see her. Well, I mean, first of all, they didn't want this interview to happen at all. And if it's going to happen, they want to see Marjorie Taylor Greene like eviscerated, like, you know, Jon Stewart style or something, for thinking these things that they think are foolish. They take the view that, again, we've had kind of a couple segments today dancing around this or addressing explicitly this point that free speech is now something the pro-democracy coalition is afraid of. They think if you hear ideas they think are wrong and bad and even crazy, that you're going to be like infected with them and come to believe them. Like, I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene came off particularly well. I don't think she can really defend the accusation that like Democrats are pedophiles because they have a kind of a disagreement with Republicans about, you know, what is the right age for young people experiencing gender dysphoria to begin medical interventions. That doesn't, I think, make you a pedophile. And I think it's ridiculous to kind of defend that position. So I'm not like afraid that people are going to see that interview and go, "Wow, I thought Marjorie Taylor Greene was crazy, but now I agree with her because some mainstream gatekeeper didn't do a good enough job destroying her on television." I think that's really silly. And do Democrats and mainstream media people not think that their own views are persuasive, that there's going to always be attrition every time you give any sort of platform to a person who disagrees with them? You can't be very confident of your own views if that's what you think is going to happen.
But they obviously think that's going to happen. And also, Robby, that is happening, right? Because their views are terrible. Like, it used to be that you had to fight for your views in the court of public opinion. Now, if you control all the media and all of the social media companies, what they do instead of fighting and trying to persuade people to agree with them is just silence them and not have them on. And in fact, that's what you saw with this interview, right? There was so much pushback just at the very idea that she had granted this interview, even before the interview was seen. All of these, big name journalists were saying, how dare she even give her a platform? And in fact, Glenn Greenwald weighed in on this and said in classic great Glenn fashion, this is what he tweeted: "The number of liberals vehemently condemning this interview they have not seen based on their view that journalists should ignore everyone who isn't a Democrat or at least a good Trump-hating Republican like Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney reveals so much about their mindset. And I completely agree with him. I mean, the idea that a member of Congress, right, is not worthy of being, interviewed on mainstream television, a member of Congress who has a lot of power right now, whose views reflect where so much of the mainstream is at and doesn't get a hearing. And that's my criticism of Leslie Stahl, is that she didn't ask her about things like Ukraine, right? Which is where Marjorie Taylor Greene has been incredibly brave, dragging her party, kicking and screaming into the anti-war place that used to be occupied by progressives, that progressives are now too afraid to go to, right? She didn't ask her about any of the things that she's doing that are actually important. She sort of treated her like a social media celebrity and questioned her about those issues. I will say, I was very surprised to learn, Robby, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is worth $10 million. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Interesting,
Has she
right?
accrued
Journalism.
that wealth?
Hashtag journalism.
Has she accrued that wealth recently by virtue of her position as an important political figure?
She accrued it. Her father had a building business, a contractor business. She and her husband bought it from her father and turned it into an her ex-husband now, extremely lucrative business, made a lot of money, jobs creators, right? And then she turned to, she bought a CrossFit gym. She's very into CrossFit. This was great journalism. I mean, you really learned a lot. And there wasn't a single one of her views that Leslie Stahl didn't ask her about and push back about, except, maybe some of the more important ones. But everything that was controversial that she had said was aired and questioned, and she was given an opportunity to respond. And I have to say, kudos to Marjorie Taylor Greene for going on CNN. I mean, that's not something that's obvious, right?
Absolutely agree with you.
Republican,
Yes.
A MAGA Republican, not steamrolling, not boycotting mainstream media in the way that some have taken to Ron DeSantis and others, but saying, you know what, I'm up for this. I am not afraid of my positions. I am not ashamed of myself. I know that I am going to be able to defend my views and represent myself. And that is something that, Democrats, how many of them these days will go on Fox News? And by the way, when they do go on Fox News, they're treated with a lot more respect than Marjorie Taylor Greene was treated by Leslie Stahl. I have to say, they're not badgered. They are respectfully asked their opinion, pushed back against, and then moving on. I mean, so I find this whole thing about having to silence your opponents, it's just like what you said in the beginning, Robby. They are afraid of their own opinions. They're insecure about their opinions. They know that they're unpopular. And instead of fighting for them and trying to convince people, which they know will fail, they just try to silence people who disagree with them.
I will say that I object to, all Democrats are pedophiles, that kind of talk. Look, there is disagreement between Republicans and Democrats about what policies ought to be in schools, how to handle people who have gender-related medical issues, what the appropriate steps are. There is profound disagreement on these subjects. It's very political. Again, what the Democrats want is very much not what Republicans want, what Marjorie Taylor Greene wants. By and large, though, it is not because, they're trying to have sex with your children. It is a political disagreement.
No, I totally agree. I think I don't even like the word groomer. I think it goes too far. It's too close to how they used to call all gay people pedophiles. I'm not into it. But you know what? AOC calls every Republican a terrorist, right? Yeah. She doesn't get banned from CNN for doing so, right? There is overheated, gross language that demonizes the other side. There's too much of it. Everybody should give it up, But it's very, very, very equally spread between the two parties. And only one party is, supposedly silenced for doing it.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for us for today. Tomorrow on Rising, independent reporter Louis DeAngelis will be back with new reporting out of East Palestine, Ohio, and you won't want to miss that. Batya, it was great seeing you again on Monday. Love to start out the week on the right foot.
Thank you so much for having me, Robby. I'll be watching all week.
Thank you. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'll see you back here tomorrow.